Hi everybody, welcome back, glad you could tune in again. We come today to Psalm 8, which is a psalm of praise to the living God for his glory as the creator of all things. And it's a psalm of thanksgiving and wonder at the privileged position that we have as human beings within the created world. We have been given the privilege of having dominion over the works of God's hands, having dominion over the whole created order. And this psalm thanks God for that. Just a couple of observations about this. The first, an obvious one, this comes at the end of Psalms 3 to 7, which you hardly need me to tell you, are psalms in which the atmosphere is heavy with grief and tears and moaning and crying out to God in times of suffering and anguish and persecution. And it's as though in Psalm 8 we turn a literary corner, into a new world, a world in which we can breathe fresh air again, in which God has liberated us, so to speak, from what assailed us in Psalms 3 to 7. And I think that literary turning of the corner mirrors the historical turnings of the corner that God promises. God promises not to test us beyond what we can bear. Of course, sometimes we think that what we can bear is less than what he thinks we can. But nonetheless, God is kind and gracious, and God is the God who answers prayer. And we have, of course, the promise of the future new start, the resurrection of all things, in which a decisive corner will be turned, a page will be turned on the whole creative order, and all things will be liberated from their bondage to decay. And if the last few weeks or months have taught us anything, maybe they have taught us more than anything to long for that day. One other thought, flowing more directly from Psalm 8 itself, you notice right at the center of the psalm is this gasp of wonder at the privileged position that humanity has been placed in. You've made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. You've given him dominion over the works of your hands. You've put all things under his feet. This, of course, is a reference to the creation narrative, where Adam and Eve, our first parents, were placed as rulers over the whole creation and given this charge to fill and take dominion over the whole world. And Psalm 8 recalls the privilege of that. I want to highlight this for us all. The vocations that we have, whether in what we normally think of conventionally as paid work, like a job, or whether it's studying or caring for aging parents and grandparents, or whether it's being a mum or a dad, or mums particularly perhaps spending a fair amount of time at home with your own families and your children. Whatever our vocations are, come under this heading of taking dominion over the works of God's hands. And every single one of those things is a tremendous privilege. God did not need to make us into the kind of creatures that get to rule the creation that he's made, but he's done so. And it's an act of sheer wondrous kindness that places this privilege upon us. And I want to encourage you, as we pray in the coming weeks and months, the restrictions which have constrained for many folks their ability to do those vocations as you would normally like to, as those restrictions are lifted, can I encourage you to throw yourself back into those vocations, or in some cases your search for a new vocation, with passion and enthusiasm. I'm conscious that for many folks it's going to be really difficult. Your career might have been heading off in a great direction, and now suddenly the COVID crisis hit and you lost your job, or your job has at least changed dramatically. You don't know what you're going to do. Well, it's going to be very difficult for you, and our prayers will be with you. And yet, I want to encourage you to grasp the nettle, so to speak, to take with two joyful hands and one joyful heart this privilege which Psalm 8 calls attention to, of being a man, being a woman who has the opportunity to work in the world and with this glorious world that God has given us. I think practically speaking, that may make it very much easier and more fruitful. It will certainly make it more Christ-honouring for those who do have to somewhat pick up the pieces, to do so with zeal and enthusiasm and passion, not to allow ourselves to drift into a kind of morose spirit, but to see the astonishing privilege of being alive, which is what this psalm calls attention to. Some of this stuff, it was in danger of taking me far too long to say, which this video now has already done anyway. So I put a few other thoughts in another video, a kind of outtakes thing, which you may like to take a look at if you have half an hour or so to spare. Hopefully Mr. Franklin will be able to put that up online for you. If you got this far, then you'll know about that. But anyway, for now, God bless you, and I look forward, God willing, to seeing you all very soon. Bye for now.